All right. I believe, maybe not. Yeah. All right. We're live.
All
All
right.
right. Welcome into Sunday Mass with the Fantasy Bible. Our Sunday daily show where we answer them lineup questions, anything you got coming in. I've got a couple lineup questions myself. I think the first thing we can get to, Dane, is Christian McCaffrey.
Oh no. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the news cycle from Carolina has been, oh, he's 50-50 for this week. And that's been the past 2 or 3 weeks so far. Word was he's trending up. It'll be, maybe a game time decision. So people were hopeful to start Christian McCaffrey this week. And then out of nowhere, the rug was pulled out from under us all. Matt Rule placed Christian McCaffrey on IR, meaning he will miss at least 3 weeks. What a what a wild ride. And what a terrible, terrible thing to happen. It just really reminds me of what happened last year. They just didn't want him to come back too soon, and we suffered as fantasy players for it. So
Yeah, 2 years in a row this is happening, and I don't really get it. It's not like like if the Panthers want to make the playoffs, they need to win as many games as they can now. So I don't know why they're like if Christian McCaffrey can play slightly hobbled, then that's how they should be playing him. They shouldn't just be waiting for him to get 100% healthy because no one's 100% healthy during the fantasy football season. But yeah, very frustrating for all the McCaffrey drafters out there. Just goes to show that while snake draft is fun, it's probably not the best way to do it because I didn't really want to draft Christian McCaffrey. I'm locked into taking Christian McCaffrey, and now here we are. Now, if you are a Christian McCaffrey owner, what kind of interested about is like, so, and let's say you have Chuba. Are you interested in moving Christian McCaffrey right now?
I think it kind of depends on your record. If you're a 1-4 team or a 2-3 team, something you should consider. Don't sell too low, but if you could get maybe a James Robinson and I don't know, a Kadarius Toney or something like that.
What
Like
about a Kareem Hunt and T Higgins?
it's in consideration because I think it's a little bit of a buy low on T Higgins there. And Kareem Hunt is he could have a monster week this week with Nick Chubb out. Nick Chubb also speculated to miss more than just this week. So I'm kind of concerned there. I do believe they have a bye next week.
I
Or maybe
think
no,
so.
I don't think
Or
so. Actually, that's Pittsburgh. Never mind. But either way, Chubb figures to maybe miss more than just this week, which is concerning. Which would value Kareem Hunt higher going forward. Um, so yeah, I think that's a fine trade if you need to win now because there's no guarantee that he comes back after the 3 weeks either. So he's got to miss this week, week 7, week 8. So week 9, you're looking for a potential return. And if you're not in a position where you can afford to gamble on losing those 3 weeks, then you need to move him.
yeah, I think I would agree with that take. I might just send that offer right now because I'm kind of done with the whole Christian McCaffrey train.
Yeah, the best ability is availability, as they
Yeah,
say.
come on, get with the picture, guys. Okay, trade
Um,
proposal sent.
yeah, that Nick Chubb thing, though, kind of piggybacking off of that conversation, that is concerning for me because I have Nick Chubb in our main league, and now I'm considering doing the same there because I'm 2-3 in that league, and I can't really afford to wait for Nick Chubb to just potentially return. So I'm thinking of trying to beat the news and potentially shop him around before there's word on. Like if he goes to IR, it's going to be so hard to trade him, and I think that very well could happen.
Yeah, I think that's likely, and that I would definitely recommend doing that because that's where I was with McCaffrey last week. I was like, I really should just move him. Like this feels exactly like last year when we don't really know like the severity of his hamstring injury and how long he's going to be out. Same coaching staff and everything. So yeah, that was. So I was going to move him last week, and I was like, no, he could be back this week, and then I would regret it. And obviously, I regret not moving him when I did. So yeah, I think if you can parlay Chubb into two starters at this point and you're a win now team, that's definitely the way to go.
Yeah, I'm going to need players because I have Najee on bye next week, so I'm going to be starting Melvin Gordon and Kenyon Drake or something like that. It's going to be rough. Um,
Gotcha.
any other start sits you had on your rosters this week? Anything troubling?
Yeah. So all right. So I'm in a league where I have some options in the flex role. Currently I'm rolling out Cortland Sutton, but Kadarius Toney is also an option.
Yeah, I remember we had this discussion last week. I
last
believe.
week.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're both projected for the exact same amount of points. Last week, I think Kadarius Tony scored like 3 more points maybe than Sutton did. So we did make the right call by starting Tony. But there's some, fears that Tony could be a flash in the pan. I don't think so, but I do believe more of that Giants receiving core is returning this week. I think Sterling Shepard is going to be playing, if I saw correctly.
Yeah, and
Um,
Darius Slayton.
and Darius Slayton. So obviously, like he vaults down that depth chart. Now it kind of remains to be seen if he's done enough for them to start him over those players. I'm certainly what I would be doing, but um, yeah, Sutton and Tony are another query this week that we had last week as well.
Yeah, it's funny because I also have Kadarius Tony and Cortland Sutton in the same roster as well. So I had that decision as well this week. I went with Cortland Sutton. I just feel a bit more confident in his role in that offense. Like you said, some wide receivers coming back for the Giants, and we could see Tony's workload diminish a bit this week. And he's also nursing an ankle injury. I think it's ankle. So that could always re-aggravate. So I'm just trying to play against those risky variables and play for more of a floor play with Cortland Sutton, but I would argue that Tony probably has the higher ceiling.
Nice. We got a question from Alex B in the chat. Sup, fellas, thoughts on Barkley's return? No, I'm not sure what he's asking there. Is what's going on with Saquon? I am the lucky soul who never drafts Saquon, so I don't really know what's going on with him. They're out for the Giants versus Rams. So is this just a McCaffrey situation where we don't exactly know when he's coming back? And
yeah, 100%. So he was diagnosed with that low ankle sprain 2 weeks ago. So there's no guaranteed timeline for him. He's not placed on IR yet, which is good news. But like we saw with McCaffrey, it could be something they're monitoring. And then if it's not going well, they could just place him on IR to alleviate any re-injury concerns for their team. But I'm hoping if I'm the Saquon owner and I do have him in my dynasty league, I'm hoping he's back in 2 weeks and they don't need to place him on the IR. But if they project him to be longer than that, you could see him go on IR, and that's going to be rough.
and Booker looked fine in his absence as well.
Yeah.
I'm so off the Saquon Barkley thing. What I guess this whole IR thing is like good and bad for fantasy football, the short term IR. Because before, like it might have been a situation where if, like there was only long term IR, they didn't have that 3 week period where we'd just be kind of like waiting on news every week. But at least now, while it sucks because sometimes they're ready to go after 2 games and they're out for 3 games, it's kind of nice to have that definitive timeline that a player is going to be out and hopefully returning.
Yeah, I think it's just good information so you can make roster moves, whether that be to trade somebody away or try to trade for a replacement player in the meantime. But it's certainly annoying when you've waited a week or two in limbo with Christian McCaffrey, and now all of a sudden he's on IR for an extended period of time when you thought he was week to week, potentially could have came back 2 weeks ago, maybe this week, maybe next week, and now it's none of the above, 3 more weeks.
And
week 9 return, that's rough.
it's probably it's probably like too early or too late to sell on Saquon, right? That we just got that question as well. Should I try to trade him? What would be a good value for a 1-for-1?
Yeah, so it's going to be hard. If I'm trying to trade Saquon right now, I'm looking at the teams that are winning the league so far, like the top few teams, because those guys are the people who can wait on him to come back. And running backs, if you're trying to trade for a running back, you're going to have to accept a downgrade because the healthy ones that aren't on bye next week, there's so few of them now. It just dwindles every single week. Chris Carson is out. Like all those middling RB2s that you might have been able to acquire are either out, injured, or on bye week. So you're hoping that those teams have a movable piece.
Some names, if you're for a 1-for-1, James Robinson, Joe Mixon, you're basically trading for the same situation, but he seems to be a little bit healthier. Yeah. DeAndre Swift, Kareem Hunt, those are probably some fair 1-to-1 values, unless you want to swap them for a receiver. And then you're looking at Stephon Diggs, DeAndre Hopkins, probably around that range, I would say.
I think it'd be potentially hard to get the owner of Diggs or Hopkins to trade away them for an injured Saquon, but if they have the luxury of waiting,
but I don't know about Diggs. I think the Diggs owner, if they're in a good spot and they've survived what Diggs has done, they're probably ready to ship Diggs off.
That's true. It certainly
Um,
does not hurt to try.
the
Yeah, I
thing
would be
is, like,
targeting.
well, go ahead. Yeah.
No, I was just going to repeat myself. Go ahead.
Well, the thing is, like, I'm not comfortable trading Saquon for the next tier down of
Yeah,
wide receiver. Like, I'm not trading him for a Jamar Chase or a Chris Godwin or a Mike Evans 1-for-1. Like, that's just too low of a value. So if you can get that range of like Metcalf, Hopkins, DJ Moore, Cooper Cup, Diggs, Jefferson, all of those guys, those at least according to the value charts are right in the range of where Saquon could be. And then Saquon could be back next week. I mean, or we don't really know, but they said
yeah,
low tier ankle sprain, but then we also saw that massive baseball that was sticking out of his ankle. So
yeah.
yeah.
Thanks for the question, Alex B. It's funny because Alex is in our league, our super flex league, right? And he unfortunately auto drafted. And it turned out he had the most running back depth out of nearly anyone in the league. I think he drafted 5 running backs in the first 7 rounds or something like that. Saquon is injured. Chris Carson is injured. He traded away David Montgomery, who is injured. And his last running back, I forget, is also Nick Chubb is injured. He now has no running backs. In week 1, he had the most by far in our league. It's crazy. I hate this game so much sometimes.
Right. Well, because his strategy was like, all right, let everybody else take the quarterbacks, and then I will have the depth that no one has, and then it just kind of gets very unlucky.
Yeah.
Um, I think something that I've been thinking about introducing to the PJPL, one of our main leagues last year, is you play 2 games a week system where you play against your opponent and then you play against the league average points for.
That's an interesting concept. I haven't heard too much about those kind of leagues and how they go, but I like the idea that it creates more of a parity between schedules, because there's so many situations where the lowest point scorer is like in the top 4 and then the highest point scorer is in the bottom 4 just based on who they played that week. It's terrible.
Right. Like we've got this guy in our league who has 480 points for 70 points less than the nearest person. And he's 2-3. Like, if he would be what, probably 2-8 if it was, if we played it like 2 games per week style. So
Mhm.
I just think it does kind of like level it out, and now and while still leaving space for that fun luck element of fantasy football with your scheduled matchup. And then also from Alex B, Russ Wilson, he's throwing lefty, I guess, in practice.
I've heard
And
jokes about that. I don't know that he actually is. I haven't checked on that.
I looked at Russell Wilson throw some passes with his left hand during Thursday.
There's no way that's better for the team than just allowing Geno Smith to do his best. Like, that's hilarious, though. If we see that happen, like if let's say Geno Smith gets injured and Russell Wilson is like still on the roster, like active for that week, and he comes in and starts throwing lefty, that would be just a legendary moment for the game.
It would be. And as we all know, Russell Wilson, a great healer of our time. Personally, I don't know if the Seahawks are that worse with Geno Smith than they are with Russell Wilson, because the way Russell Wilson gets things done is so inefficient that like maybe they'll be more efficient with Geno Smith. Like Russ is like the big play moon ball, 3-and-out moon ball, 3-and-out scramble moon ball. It's like they don't sustain drives. They had some success with that earlier in the season when they like were really sticking to that Shane Waldron horizontal passing game, but very quickly it regressed back into the same old Seahawks that we've been seeing for the past 10 years, I think, at this point. So I'm not really giving a downgrade to Seahawks until we see how this works tonight in a full game of action.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think you're probably a little lower on DK Metcalf with Geno Smith in here, like those deep downfield targets we see from Russ. Don't know how much of those will be there from Geno, but I do suspect he will be a fine game manager, a significantly better backup than a lot of teams can have.
All right, so here's another lineup question for you. I've got a pretty loaded wide receiver core in this league. I have, and I already made the mistake of starting Devontae Smith. So my other receivers are Robert Woods, Mike Williams, CeeDee Lamb, Allen Robinson, and T. Higgins. It's a 3 wide receiver league, so Smith takes up one of those. So I've got the flex and the 2 receiver spots. Right now, I have Robert Woods, Mike Williams, and CD Lamb in. Um, any thought to swapping out Mike Williams for a T Higgins?
No, but there is injury concern with Michael Williams this week, so I don't think that's reason enough to make that move because word is he's going to play. He's healthy enough to play, and I'm not benching Mike Williams. I don't have the cojones to do that right now with the way he's playing. So, maybe just make sure that he's active before that game. Who else on your out of those guys is playing in the 4 o'clock slot? Because I believe Mike Williams is in that late afternoon slot. I
Mike
would.
Williams is actually at the 1 p.m. slot,
Oh,
and
he is
so
okay.
is Woods, but CD Lamb is really the only guy at the 4:25 slot. Everyone else is going at 1. And I don't know if I can sit CD. I mean, it doesn't figure to be a high volume passing game from from the Cowboys against the Patriots, but Allen Robinson is a hard sit at this point. And I like T Higgins against Detroit. I feel like that's going to be a more competitive matchup, but I don't want to overthink myself into sitting CD Lamb here.
Yeah, I think you got to start CD just based on what we've seen from him on the field. But I agree, it's one of those situations you're not loving the matchup, but at the same time, I do love the player. So, Dak Prescott looks amazing. That Cowboys offense firing on all cylinders. If the Patriots can put any points on the board, then you're going to keep throwing a bit. I think they're going to throw pretty much the whole first half. They're going to try to control the game as much as they can, but they're not going to let up on the gas pedal till the end of the third quarter if it gets out of hand. So
I like it. There's also in another league where it's a very competitive 14-person $250 buy-in league. I'm trying to figure out who the heck to start at defense. The defense I have rostered is the Broncos, and they're playing the Raiders. So not a
okay,
fantastic matchup, but here are my other options. The Washington football team versus Kansas City, the
no,
Raiders defense against Denver, the Bears defense against Green Bay, the Titans defense against Buffalo, the terrible Chiefs defense against Washington, Seahawks versus Pittsburgh, Chargers at Baltimore, and then some options that are so bad I won't even list them.
yeah, no, you have the best by far, I believe. Like all the distractions with John Gruden for the Raiders this last week and a half,
Mhm.
that's enough for me to break the tie. And I don't even think there is a tie between those other defenses. Derek Carr, a quarterback who has proven he makes mistakes under pressure, I believe they'll get plenty of pressure on him. They know that this game, Vic Fangio is going to play into that strength. He's aware of what's going on off the field for them. He's going to try to rattle them and keep them on their heels early. So
Yeah, Joey Bosa gave us the blueprint to
yeah,
turn Derek Carr into a turtle. So okay, we got a good question in the chat. Do you guys think Ertz trade helps or hurts his value? As you can tell, I have strong opinions on this, but yeah, I think this tremendously helps his value. Max Williams was already becoming kind of a safety blanket in the short to intermediate passing game for the Cardinals, something that they didn't really have last year that they wanted with Larry Fitzgerald, but Larry was just so cooked last year that they didn't really have that possession receiver to keep the chains moving while they, try and run their more explosive downfield stuff and some of the run game stuff. And so Max Williams goes to IR, season ending injury. Ertz slots in as a better tight end than Max Williams. I mean, as simple as that. Even at 30 and athletically cooked, Ertz can still get open. He can still move the change. He's not going to break a single tackle this season, but I think this is one of those things where I would trade for Zach Ertz personally, because whoever has him just like streamed him. Like, I don't know. It's a tough thing. Like, no one is invested really in Zach Ertz. Like, if you have him, you picked him up off the waiver, you drafted him really late in your league. He hasn't like performed to the level with the Eagles that you're like starting him week to week or anything like that. So I don't think anyone has affiliations for him. And so in like the tight end wasteland, he's a guy that could have value that you could grab before he starts to show that value, but I would not give up very much. It's just like Max Williams was looking like he could be a top 12 tight end, and I think Zach Ertz slots right in there. Plus, it's a much more volume based passing attack than Philadelphia.
Yeah, like I would trade Noah Fant for Zach Ertz at this point. I would trade an injured Logan Thomas. I would trade any of those middling guys. Dallas Goddard probably gets the biggest boost here, though, with Ertz out of Philly.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Goddard could prove to be the target leader most weeks. And what does that mean for fantasy? Potentially not much because the Birds are what they completed 12 passes last week or this week on Thursday.
Yeah, like they threw for less than 200 yards
Yeah, I think Hertz was maybe 12 of 24 or something like that, 21 maybe. Like
for like 160 yards or something.
yeah, so he's not going to be a high octane guy, but Goddard as good of a chance of anyone as like having a floor at tight end at this point and room for touchdowns.
So small caveat to that and why you should be trading for Dallas Goddard. One, it's a contract year for Dallas Goddard, and after the Ertz trade, uh, Howie came out and said, "Look, like we want to extend Dallas Goddard. There's not going to be a discount on Dallas Goddard, but we need him to prove that he can be the number one guy before we do that." So that means they're going to be giving him the opportunity. It's one of the teams where the GMs have a lot more hand in the personnel and play calling than a lot of other teams in the league, unfortunately. And so you can expect to see Dallas Goddard featured as that front office tries to truly determine what his value is. And then perhaps more importantly, the Eagles have had a hellacious schedule to start this first 6 weeks. They're 2-4. They probably should have won against the 49ers, but they also had to play the Chiefs. They played the Bucks, played some tough teams during this stretch. And it opens up a lot more after this. They play, I think, the Raiders, and then they play the Lions, and then they play a bunch of NFC East teams, which we know how that works. So I also think the schedule is going to open up a lot more for the Eagles, and they're going to be in more competitive games now that they have a slightly easier schedule ahead. So I think, Goddard will also be in a more competitive space going forward. So for me, he's a top trade target, unless people are holding him for, the value that they perceive. Another question from the chat is: Hurts good because of trash time or garbage time? Yes. Despite what some may think, Jalen Hurts is not an NFL quarterback. Anyone that tells you that he is does not know what they're looking at. He is a one read and run quarterback. They can't even trust him to read the offense. They're only running like RPOs where he has to make one decision to throw to his first read or tuck it and run or give it to Miles Sanders. And he never gives it to Miles Sanders, which he probably should. But that's why he has such a high so many rushing attempts in that rushing floor, is because he calls those RPOs for himself. So from a fantasy perspective, I don't think you should expect anything to like diminish with Hurts. We're going to see like a full season of this guy, and he's going to have some games where he scores 35 points because they're playing the Lions or they're playing the football team or they're playing the Giants, and he's just running all over them. And then it's the defense isn't getting the pressure or giving the complicated looks to where he can complete passes and hit Goddard and Smith over the middle. He's had 300-yard passing games in competitive situations before. Like, he can be on and he can be good, but from a dynasty perspective, like, I wouldn't trade for Jalen Hurts because I don't expect him to be the quarterback next year. But
He's basically 2021 Tim Tebow.
yeah, like, or like Lamar Jackson's first year, or the year before Lamar's MVP year, where he was like scoring a lot of points, but like didn't look like a good quarterback,
Mm-hmm. And not nearly as athletic as Lamar, of course. So, not going to be able to make as much of that run game, but has proven to find the end zone time and time again. And
yeah,
I think he's probably scored more fantasy points in the fourth quarter than all the other quarters combined out of his games. Like,
well, the Eagles have, if you look at their point splits, they scored the most points during the fourth quarter. And so obviously that correlates. And yeah, I think there were 2 rushing touchdowns on Thursday night, which, like, it saves your fantasy game. And you want to talk about garbage time? Like, he had like 7 points, I feel like, going into the fourth quarter. And then, the Bucks let up on the gas and they were to climb back within 6. Shout out Boomy. Boomy Bets covered the spread there. But yeah, it's like roll out Hurts every week. He's going to be a great fantasy starter. But yeah, I do think he's good he's racking up a lot of those stats because of situations where the Eagles are already out of games. Another question in the chat: Do we still hate Cole Beasley? And why is Josh Allen so good? Thoughts on Singletary eventually being a good stash? That's a bit of a three-parter there. What are your thoughts on that?
Do we still hate Cole Beasley as a person?
Yes.
Yes, his character is flawed tremendously. He's also not getting the targets that we saw from him last year. Emmanuel Sanders has kind of
He's
changes
just not
that
that good of
role.
a football player.
Yeah,
He's just very mediocre. Everything he does is mediocre, and that's why he is such a negative person because he views himself as behind that, like beyond that, and that cognitive dissonance between his ego and his performance is what drives him to be such an asinine character in the league.
I love the impassioned reply. So yes, we do still hate Cole Beasley. Why is Josh Allen so good? I don't
I
know
don't
how
think
to
he is
answer
that
that.
good.
I think he is, dude.
He's
I think
pretty
he's for
good.
real. I think
He's
he's
not a
for
top
real.
five NFL quarterback.
He's top five in making throws that no other quarterback can. Like he's in that group. Aaron
Okay.
Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, maybe Kyler Murray.
They just go
Uh,
to the other team a lot more than those other guys you mentioned.
I don't know, man. He's up for MVP like caliber season right now. Like other
Oh
than
no,
week
dude.
one, yeah. Oh wait, go back and look at Patrick Mahomes side by side with Josh Allen. Like
Well,
there's no other quarterback besides maybe Tom Brady who's playing at Josh Allen's level. Maybe
Kyler Murray
Kyler
is
Murray.
playing way above the level of Josh Allen. Josh Allen
Okay.
looks like he did in 2019.
I don't know, man. Maybe you're not watching as much of Josh Allen. Anyways, thoughts on Singletary eventually being a good stash. I don't know that he necessarily is a good stash. It seems like Zach Moss is taking over whatever running back work is in that offense, and he's looking pretty good with it. They're running the ball a bit more than they used to because they're just blowing people out of the water, and then they run it for the last quarter of the game. And Zach Moss is getting more early game work than we could have projected, I think.
So of 5 games, Josh Allen has 3 games where he's completed less than 60% of his passes.
Okay.
The accuracy is not there. And that's like the concern with Josh Allen. Um, the fantasy asset, the stuff are there, but I'm down on Josh Allen as as from the NFL perspective. I don't think he's up there with like I think Joe Burrow will pass Josh Allen by next year in terms of like people's perspective of the best quarterbacks in the league.
Okay. Yeah, it's possible. I'm willing to
Um,
buy in, but that's me.
but also Singletary, not I don't think a good stash. Really, that whole Bills running game is still questionable, and I do think Zach Moss has eaten a little bit into that action right there. Dane, do you have any? Are you struggling to set your lineups anywhere?
I have had a couple hard decisions. One of them was Kadarius Tony or Cortland Sutton actually in my league that I have him. I did have a trouble deciding if I should start Devontae Smith, and I did, and it didn't work out the way I thought. I probably won't be doing that again, just based on what I'm seeing out of the Philly offense. They just don't have any reliable way to get the ball to their receivers, and that's not something I'm willing to bet on anymore until I see otherwise. Um, oh yeah, my abysmal running back league. So I have a league where I have Christian McCaffrey and Chris Carson, and then I spent a lot of fab on Damian Williams as like a fill-in, and now he's out with COVID. And I had Tyson Williams on this roster. He's not even an active player in the NFL anymore, apparently. Like, so I'm starting Alex Collins, who is going to see touches for Seattle, and JD McKissick against Kansas City Chiefs. Those are my only two running back options. Like
That's rough.
so it's not even really a start sit decision. It was forced into that, but I've tried to make moves to stop the bleeding here, and it's looking bad.
And is that in the Dynasty League?
No, that's in the Megalo Bowl League. Although
Okay.
I am set slated to win by 80% favor odds because Jalen Waddle just has 2 touchdowns today, 8 receptions, and Tom Brady is on that roster. Tom Brady did not have a crazy week, but 25 points in this league format. Yeah, I'm looking good despite the terrible running back situation I'm in. So just keep chugging away if you're in a bad spot. You just got to do what you can, control what you can, make trades if you think it's a good idea, but don't give up. That's probably my worst roster in the whole gamut of them right now.
So another question. What are you doing with Khalil Herbert this week? Because I have him in a league where I'm starting Chuba Hubbard, Joe Mixon, and Javonte Williams. And I'm wondering if Khalil Herbert should creep into any of those slots.
Um, so it was Joe Mixon and who? Sorry, Joe Mixon and who you're starting?
Joe Mixon, Chuba Hubbard, and Javonte Williams.
Maybe over. I would probably put him in over Javonte this week. I don't think it's necessary to do that based on, I don't know, any conviction I have over it. I think he'll just see more work, maybe more targets as well. I think he has more upside than Javonte this week. But I would leave Joe Mixon in there and the other guy you said, Chuba Hubbard.
Yeah.
I actually started Myles Gaskin over Khalil Herbert in a league, and I'm regretting that heavily right now. They're into the fourth quarter. Myles Gaskin has 2.4 points. I'm just so done with that guy. He's exactly what I thought he was, and I shouldn't.
He is, and I wanted to say that when everyone was celebrating Myles Gaskin last week, and I was like, I bet you Myles Gaskin gets 3 points next week, and here we are.
Yeah. If you recall, I'm sure you do. I went off on a guy in one of our leagues.
Yeah, not worth the first round pick, everybody.
Yeah, like it was just insulting. Like, I'm here live on a Sunday trying to give people any kind of fantasy advice. I think I'm paying attention with as much as any of us, right? So,
yeah.
Anyways, what is your over/under prediction for the Patriots game, more or less? Hi, Mon. Thanks for the question.
Hi, Debbie.
So it's Dallas and the Patriots this week. I think the over/under is like maybe 49.
I was about to say 50.5 is where I'd set it.
Okay, yeah. So I think honestly under. I think it'll be under. I think the Cowboys are looking to control the game. The Patriots offense hasn't looked very, very, I don't know. They're just kind of shoddy like week to week right now. And Mac Jones, just a game manager. The run game is a little shaky this week with Damian Harris out. Well, I think he's in, but maybe limited touches. So it's Ramondre Stevenson, Brandon Bolden. I just don't think the Patriots are going to put up more than 17, and they're not going to force. They're not going to force Dallas to score more than maybe 28 or 30 somewhere around there.
So 31-17 was what I was going to say. So we are like right in lockstep there.
Yeah, I think that's about what we'll see.
Any thoughts on Wentz seeming to be getting better, and does his value go up if T.Y. Hilton returns? So you saw what everyone in Philadelphia has seen from Wentz over the past several years, which are flashes. He's always flashed. He's always gone back to being bad. I think that he's a solid B+ quarterback, and that's what he'll continue to be for them. I think it's not really relevant unless you're in a 2 QB league, I think.
Yeah, I do believe this question comes from a 2 quarterback league. I think he does have Wentz in that league. His value does go up a bit with TY returning. Nothing tremendous because we don't really know what version of T.Y. Hilton we'll be getting. He's, this could be the last year of his career. He's coming off a neck injury that sidelined him for the first 5 weeks and a lot of training camp. So I don't think it's like moving the needle really on the value of Carson Wentz, but I am more so paying attention to just what Wentz looked like the last week we saw him. It was a lot better than the first 4 weeks. Hopefully he's getting more healthy, and his 2 sprains, ankles. But yeah, that hilarious injury designation, ankles. I think he's in a 2 quarterback league. He's startable, I think, going forward.
Yeah, he's absolutely startable in a 2 quarterback league. But I don't know if anyone's like itching to trade for him. He probably had his best performance of the season the other night. The other concern with Wentz is like the Colts are 1-5 or something, 1-4. They don't have a good record.
Yeah, they're 1-5. Well, 1-4, right? Yeah.
Yeah, 1-5. How many? What week is
this? This is week 6. This is week 6.
This is week 6. Okay, it was confusing because the Eagles played, but they played on Thursday, and that's why
they are 1-4. The Colts. That's not a good look. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and if like Carson Wentz, like they give up a first-round pick if Carson Wentz plays a certain amount of snaps. So if they keep losing, there's a good chance that they sit Wentz to retain that first-round pick. But if Wentz is playing well, if he continues to play well, they're going to want to maintain that relationship with him and start him anyway. And of course, like it helps that they're in a really bad division with, the Titans being the only other competitor, and the Titans don't look great. So It's also, I don't know if they've played a lot of divisional games yet, but that they should have like more divisional slates against those bad opponents, which makes Wentz a fun streamer because he gets to play the Texans and the Titans and the Jags, who all have terrible defenses. So, yeah, definitely good value in a two quarterback league. Similar question about two QB league: is Fitz Magic a hold? Not for me.
No, I don't think you can hold him. Chances are there's a better player to put on your IR slot instead of him. Even if he returns, it probably won't be till right before fantasy playoffs. So you can leave him on the waiver wire. And if we get any news to clarify his recovery from his hip dislocation going forward, then we can have a discussion about it. But I don't think he's worth it. You'd rather be holding maybe like a Trevor Lawrence or somebody who could get better as the season goes on and is actually healthy and throwing the football.
Plus, like Heineke hasn't been, terrible or anything like that. Like it's not like they're racing to start Ryan Fitzpatrick when they know they'll probably get similar production out of Fitzpatrick as they would Heineke, or as they are Heineke rather.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I'm just thinking over this Javonte Williams, Khalil Herbert move and if I'm actually going to do it or not.
Yeah, I do expect the Bears and Packers game to be a bit more like of a grinded out slog than like a high scoring affair. And I figured the Packers will win that. Again, I think the Bears will put up 17 at best.
Yeah, I just don't know if I can watch like Javonte Williams rush for over 6 yards a carry on 10 carries and then catch two passes for 25 yards and call it a day. And like, I don't like if he doesn't get a touchdown, that's his day.
Yeah, 100%. That's why I think Khalil Herbert has more opportunity this week. He'll probably see 18 to 20 touches this game, and that's what breaks a tie for me there.
All right, Herbert's in, and we're definitely starting Tony over whatchamacallit, Darnell Mooney this week.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, can't start Darnell Mooney until we see something from that offense.
Yeah, disappointing. Darnell Mooney still could be keeper relevant, but not having this season. Although there's a lot of season left, and there's a lot of Justin Fields still has quite a bit of time to play. Okay, here's one for you in a two QB league. I'm rolling out Davis Mills this week. My other options are Devin Singletary and Robbie Anderson. Probably just stick with Davis Mills, right?
Oh yeah, I think so. If you had better options, then we could have a better discussion about it because we saw what Davis Mills can do, right? He had 25 fantasy points
yeah.
And the week before that, -4.
Yeah. Fun fact, the week before that, I believe, was like when I had him rostered in Dynasty. And I was like, I think I got this guy.
Yeah. So I think you have to start him just because as a quarterback, he has a floor of like 10 points on most weeks. And that's more than the floor of Devin Singletary or the other guy that didn't surprise me enough to remember who you said.
Robbie Anderson.
Yeah. I'm so disappointed in Robbie Anderson. I was a believer in him going into the season, and I am just out on him now. Christian McCaffrey's not there, and that's potentially the only reason he's a startable asset right now. He's getting the targets, but it's not translating to really anything, and that's disappointing.
Yeah, Robbie Anderson walked, so Mike Williams could fly, really.
Yeah.
Two fantasy Bible preseason favorites. One that's killing it, one not so much. DJ Moore. I think I've never owned DJ Moore in any fantasy league ever, his entire career. Next year may be the first year that I start targeting DJ Moore because he finally looks like what everyone has been saying he is.
Yeah, I'm much more of a believer in him than I was last year. Because 2 years ago he looked amazing, like could be top 10 receiver in the NFL. Last year, a lot more inconsistent than anyone predicted. Both he and Robbie Anderson split a lot of the work. Both have 1,000 yards. Nothing too flashy from DJ Moore. Shows great play ability on the field, like passes the eye test when he's given a good target. And the Sam Darnold, is he the quarterback of their future? I don't know, but he's playing well enough. And DJ Moore is clearly the guy there. So I feel confident with him going forward more so than I did at the beginning of this year.
Okay. All right. What's going on in this Dolphins Jags game? I have not been paying attention to that.
So it is fourth quarter. I think there's like 6 minutes left. The Dolphins just punted, but it's looking like, they're doing a massive replay right now. So punt return fielded about the 8, but looks like it tipped off the finger of the returner, and then the Dolphins recover. Oh, that's interesting. That could swing the tide of that game. Dolphins,
Yeah,
I believe, are winning, right?
Dolphins are up 3. It looks like about 10 minutes ago, Tua threw a terrible interception. That's the headlines I'm seeing.
Yeah, I was going to mention it, but we were deep in discussion. It was awful. There was no receiver in the 5 yard radius to where he threw the ball.
I'm about to watch it. To his body, tried to stop him. Oh, he does. He hesitates and throws it right to the player.
Yeah, the defender is literally standing still, waiting for the ball to come to him, and nobody's
Yeah.
there.
It looks like as an athlete, my only comparison is like when you go bowling and you can feel that you're about to like fuck up the throw as you're bowling, but you have too much momentum, so you gotta let it go and it goes like
Yeah,
straight into the gutter. Um, yeah, not a Tua believer personally, but we'll see.
yeah, we'll see.
I like the other Tagovailoa brother, though I forget his name, but the one in Maryland.
Sure.
Yeah, he's the starting quarterback for the Terps. He'll be in the NFL in a couple of years. All right, let's wrap this up with this final question here in the chat. Thoughts on Mike Thomas still being on the pup list? Still hold him? Yeah, if you've held him this long, don't let him go.
Yeah, absolutely. Like they're probably like who? Okay, maybe the better discussion is, let's say he's on your IR. Who are players that you would kick him off your IR for if you absolutely had to? Like,
Well, Christian McCaffrey probably, right? Nick
yeah,
Chubb if he goes on IR.
yeah. Saquon, if he's designated out, you can put him in that slot potentially in your league. So I'd keep Saquon over him, I think.
But it's worth noting the Saints are on bye this week, so
Hmm.
he still could return next week. My understanding, right, Mike Thomas?
Yeah, I think he was only slated to miss a mandatory 6 games.
Right.
Oh, so maybe that includes next week because they're on bye. I don't know how that
That
works.
I don't know if it's 6 weeks or 6 games. Yeah.
So he's either potentially coming back next week or the week after. And then we truly don't know if he will because we don't know if he's healthy yet. There hasn't been a whole lot of clarity there, but he's definitely worth holding. When he comes back, he's the de facto wide receiver 1 there. He's very good. Jameis Winston looks decent. He's hot and cold, but
Yeah.
he's not throwing the ball a whole lot. So I think Mike Thomas value probably is lower than it was at the beginning of the season, even when we knew he was injured. I think it's gone down a bit, but he's clearly the wide receiver 1 when he comes back.
So he will be eligible to play on Monday Night Football. It's Seattle next week.
Okay.
And yeah, so and he's a player that's also holding because he could be a really interesting trade candidate as well.
That's true. Yeah. I'd be willing to try to acquire him if I only have like one good receiver in a league, and I don't know, maybe I have depth somewhere I can trade away. Maybe I trade Zach Ertz for him, and Zach Ertz plus like a wide receiver 3 for Mike Thomas could be a trade I'm looking at, something like that.
I have a league where I'm like have been holding him the whole time, which like I'm just really hoping that's not a waste of a bench spot. All right. Well, shout out Alex B in the chat. Appreciate as always your participation and giving us good topics to discuss. We'll see you guys next Sunday for Sunday Mass. Enjoy the slate of football. Any other closing thoughts, Dane?
No, thanks so much for joining us. Yeah, tune into the Miami Dolphins Jaguars game. They're wrapping it up. Pretty close game. That'll lead you right into our 1 o'clock slate. Have a good Sunday. Be safe. Have fun.
Yeah, I'm kicking us off a little early here because I want to watch the end of that game. And it's like, but football isn't like basketball where only the last 2 minutes are relevant. But for a Jags Dolphins game, I do kind of feel that way.
That is the case. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Goodbye, everybody.
Peace.
All right.